Hi, I'm Ethan. I'll be the one interviewing you today. How are you doing?
Amazing. Doing great. Thanks for having me, Ethan.
All right. So, can you introduce yourself a little bit? And then we always like to start off by having the artists tell us a little fun fact about themselves.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Jordy Searcy. I'm a singer-songwriter. I live in Oceanside, California. And my fun fact is I am hiring my brother on tour this fall as an excuse to hang out with him. And I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. It's been great.
What are you hiring him as?
He's playing drums and keys, kind of like it's like a two-man show, and so he's covering a lot of ground. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So, yeah, I don't want to waste too much time, so let's just get right into it. So, like to start off with, a little bit of background about the artist. So, like, how did you first get into music? I read that you grew up in a very musical household. Like,
mm-hmm. Yeah, so my whole family does music in different capacities, and it's just kind of like, in a lot of ways, it's like the family business that I grew up in. And so, like, my parents have done, toured records as artists. They've worked for record labels. Mom's a voice teacher. My dad's works for church right now. They've, had publishing deals and stuff. So they've just done a lot of different jobs in the music industry. So I kind of followed suit and have, played guitar for people and written songs for other people, produced for other people, and, done the cover band thing and lessons and stuff. And so right now I'm putting out music as a singer-songwriter, and really enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, when did you kind of get started with that?
I wrote my first song when I was like 11, and I was immediately hooked. But my focus was in being a guitar player until I was maybe 21 or so. But then when I was 21, I was like, oh man, I'm writing all these songs all the time. I think I want to focus on that. And that's what I've been doing, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, a big part of that, but I don't know if you would want to call it a boost, but being a contestant on The Voice, how was that experience for you?
That was great,
especially because we were about the same age. Like, I'm 20 now, so I can only imagine what that was like.
Yeah, it was really awesome. It was like a summer camp for musicians in a lot of ways, and so it was a really, really good experience. And I think high pressure situations like that are really fun. Whether I think the biggest thing that I gained from it was just how to operate in a high pressure situation and how to like prepare for something for a month. We worked on one song for a month, and that attention to detail has been really helpful in my career and in being able to focus in. So I had a great experience. I think everybody who works on that show is great.
Yeah. I mean, you had some pretty high profile mentors to help you along the way as well. So yeah,
totally.
Yeah. So the big thing why we're talking today is both the album and the tour. So congrats on the album being about a month old now. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Congrats on that. So if you want, can you share a little bit about the album and kind of like the process behind it and your process of writing it?
Yeah, it's funny. Writing that album was really easy, and recording it was the hardest thing that I've had to do in my job as a musician. A lot of the songs, there's 3 or 4, I think 4 of the songs I wrote with my buddy Philip Vo on the same day. And then the others just kind of happened pretty quickly. But then whenever I had the record, we were trying to figure out how to record it, and there were just a bunch of unrelated schedule nightmares that made it really difficult to finish. So honestly, the plan was to have this record out end of 2023, and it just dragged on so much. Through once again just a bunch of inconvenient things that added up to one long delay. So the record is finally out, and really excited for people to hear it.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that since the first single came out kind of fall of 23, and
Yeah,
then
long time
the
ago.
album finally comes out. Almost
2
two
years
years later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the themes, um, the overarching theme is kind of you and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's kind of what I picked up from it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole album is about me getting married and yeah, like making a huge life change to like start a new life with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean
Yeah.
that first song, I'm guessing. I mean, it's intro song, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. I'm guessing that was your wedding day. The 210
Yeah, that's right.
24.
That's
Yeah.
the title is 21024. So yeah, that's the day we got married.
Yeah.
And that's a clip of my wife talking in the beginning of the of that intro track. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you kind of like you kind of touched on it a little bit, especially with more of the recording process. But like as far as the actual writing process of the album, with a lot of it being written, a little bit earlier on, what was that kind of writing process like, and how did a lot of the songs like come about?
Yeah, I typically I write like it's my day job. So if I'm not touring or finishing a project, then I usually write 8 to 2 ish is kind of my general schedule. And so what I've found by doing that, I actually like with having just a very normal routine writing process, I've found that it actually kind of catalogs my life a little more honestly. Because if I'm writing every day over a certain span of time, then those songs that I write in that period of time don't really have any preconceived notions of what they should be when I go to write them. It ends up just kind of being a chronicle of the time that I spent, and that's definitely true for these songs. Fun fact, with all the delays of the record, I was like, about beginning of this year, I was like, I have the songs already for the next record. Let me just start it. So we just finished the second record a couple of weeks ago, and so we've fortunately now it's like, well, we had a delay, but now we're like ahead in the queue a little bit, so that's nice.
Right. Well, congrats on finishing the next one. Yeah. Like kind of going off that, with how much time passed, like even looking back, do you think like have things kind of changed, or like looking back, would you have like rewritten those songs differently, that sort of thing, from when you first wrote them
funny
2
enough,
years ago?
Yeah, funny enough, I think I really like I really like them the way they are. I think part of that is I'm such an obsessive songwriter, especially like lyrics and everything like that. I'd spend so many sessions just like revising and perfecting and stuff. And so I don't have any like, oh, maybe we should have changed that, because part of the reason, it took so long that I had plenty of time to make all those changes. But I think too, songwriting is usually better when it's honest as opposed to when it's perfect. And so those songs were like a snapshot in time of like of like being engaged basically and about to get married.
Yeah.
And I think it's I feel like in the songwriting, especially with lyrics, I like really captured the excitement that I was feeling in that season of time, and just like almost like the fun impatience of that season. And yeah, so I really like, I'm grateful for those songs. Yeah.
Yeah. So like what, and kind of going back to the actual recording process of it, and you can kind of elaborate on this, but from what I read, you recorded in multiple places, both in, California, and then a little bit in Nashville, and then even a little bit back home in Mississippi, correct? Or
Alabama. Well, back home is Alabama, but I did a lot of the songs we worked on in Mississippi at a random studio in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah,
because I was playing a gig close by. Yeah.
Oh, so it was kind of a spur of the moment thing, more so.
It was. I had a gig booked, and I was like, oh, I've been meaning to write with my buddy Philip. What if we find, because I remembered I had another friend in Jackson, Mississippi that has a studio down there. And I was like, what if we rented it out and wrote a bunch of songs? And then we ended up getting a lot of songs that ended up on the record that in that like 3-day span. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, I also mentioned like Nashville. Were you still living there at the time? Because I know you did live there for a point in time.
I did. I didn't. A lot of the guys that I worked on the record with lived in Nashville, and so I worked on the record remote with a lot of people. So like it was recorded in Nashville, but not by me, but by some buddies of mine.
Yeah. Gotcha. That makes a lot more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, you know, big thing, especially at this moment that we're talking, is the tour. Out of, you know, all, is it 8 or 9 songs on the album? I should have wrote this down.
Eight. I think it's 8 songs, 9 tracks. Like the intro track is maybe a song. Yeah.
Gotcha. But out of everything off the new album, what are you most looking forward to performing live? And why is that?
Let's see. Yeah. We're rehearsing this week actually, which has been really fun, kind of diving into all the arrangements. I think so far the song "The End of Us," we came up with some really fun arrangement things that I think will come across really well. And so right now that's the most fun, but we're also not, you know, maybe I'll have a different favorite by the end of the week. It kind of goes like that. So you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once you actually hit the road, you know, it could completely change. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, kind of going off that into some more questions about like the tour, you know, congrats on that starting this Friday.
Yeah.
Probably by the time this will be out, you'll probably already be on the road, but, are there any particular things about being back on the road or any particular shows or venues that you're looking forward to the most?
I think the thing about this next touring season that I'm most excited about is we completely restructured everything. So now instead of like doing 2 months at a time, I'm just doing like 4 shows a month, 5 shows a month, and doing it just kind of like at a long weekend. And really excited about that because I think it'll be a really good balance of enjoying the shows and like concentrating on them to make them special, as well as not being like away from home too long and not like getting in the rut of touring, because sometimes at the end of a tour, like or any tour, inevitably if it's longer than just a weekend, there are some shows that just you're like, oh, okay, another show, let's get through it, you know. And it's like it's such a gift that anybody cares about my songs at all that I'm like, I can't be in that headspace even for one show, because people are there to like experience something special. So I'm like, I need to figure out how to be present with people in the moment that have paid to see me play songs. And at the same time, just realizing that like, oh yeah, I also need to like be home and like have a real life more than just being on tour all the time. And so I'm really excited for this kind of like new way of structuring things. I think it's going to work well.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that, like, you know, because it's a few dates here, late August, early September, and then about a month break. I mean, that's a...
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like you don't see many artists doing that.
Yeah, I think, you know, anybody that pays attention to what the music industry is doing has heard about artists canceling tours from like cost efficiency standpoint to just like how hard it is to be on tour. It really is a really tough thing to do because, and most of the reason for that is like the only time that you're not working is when you're sleeping if you're on tour. Right. And that just doing that for a month, especially a lot of tours like don't have a lot of off days. It's like you can only work so many 18-hour days in a row, and it's just not fun at all.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm trying this new kind of method out of doing and only like fly dates. So basically, like fly into one city, rent a car, and then fly out of the last city on the run. but I'm optimistic that it will make touring manageable, and more fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I mean, kind of tying it back into the album itself, do you think like, you know, that your relationship with your wife being that kind of key theme of the album, do you think that kind of played a part in the decision to kind of split the tour in two, I would say?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I really like being home and hanging out with my wife and my friends here in Oceanside way more than I like being on the road, or at least like going on tour, because like the shows are amazing and so special. But it's like, that's 2 hours out of a day of hard work.
Yeah.
And so I definitely am like looking for ways to like, oh, how do I like live my life and enjoy my life instead of only work? Because that's not worth it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I also think I'm just going to, starting in August, I'm just going to do that kind of every month, just do 4 or 5 shows somewhere, which will be kind of, if you spread that out over a year, it's pretty much the same as like a 2 or 3 month tour every year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but like, I feel like a lot of artists don't really talk about like the kind of behind the scenes stuff of touring. Like what does your typical kind of day on tour look like, being those long 18-hour days, aside from just being, the drive time?
Right. So yeah, I'm a very small artist. So right now the crew is just me and one other person, sometimes a third person, depending. But let's assume it's a 4-hour drive between cities that day. You probably wake up at 8, out the door by 9. You probably get to the city by 2-ish. You want to leave an hour buffer in case of any accidents or breakdowns or traffic or whatever, or if you want to stop for lunch or something. And then get to the town probably 2:15-ish, give or take, and then kind of get your bearings. And then at 3, I do a little like free meet and greet at a coffee shop close to the venue, just to kind of like connect and talk with anybody that wants to come say hey. And then at 4, usually we load in. I'd say probably like 2 hours for sound check and like load in and sound check, just kind of getting everything ready in the venue. 2 hours minimum, sometimes 3 hours. And usually doors are open by 7. So, and openers on 7:30-ish. So yeah, but sometime between 4 and 7, it's like get the show set, get all the merch set, get everything squared away, and then try to grab a bite somewhere for half an hour, come back to see the opener play, then do the show, and then I'm talking to people and for an hour-ish after the show, and then you pack up everything, settle, count merch, load the van. And by the time you're out the door, it's probably 11-ish drive. And then we usually try to drive an hour or 2 at night after the show, because we kind of have energy. And so, yeah, drive an hour and a half-ish, and you're probably laying down to bed at like 2 a.m.-ish, and then get up to do it the next day. So it can, and I'd say that's like some days are a lot easier. Some days you only have an hour and a half drive. But I'd say for the majority of the time, that's about what the day is like.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that's, especially only having, 2 or 3 people on crew, I guess you could say. Like,
right.
That, definitely adds some challenges, but probably takes away some, because you don't have as many like logistical issues of trying to move around.
Right. It's
tens of people,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a nimble thing. But yeah, the other thing about touring is like that at my size of touring, that's the only way I can make a profit, or the only way a lot of times just not lose money, is by having a very small team on the road. And and then it tends to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So A little bit about like the dates themselves. Like I noticed a lot of them are like mostly East Coast. I know there's like one or two in like Denver, and then I think Nebraska as well. So like kind of in the Midwest, but like most of them are East Coast, South. Well,
Yeah.
what was kind of the decision with that, especially you know what, like you said, kind of wanting to be able to spend more time at home, going back to the East Coast versus staying out west.
Oh yeah. Well, the good thing is if you hop on a plane, going to
Yeah.
flying to Seattle and flying to Atlanta is just about a 2 hour difference. And yeah, well, I think we'll like January, February is when we're gonna get into the West Coast shows.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so these were just kind of like the dates that ended up being open. And
Right.
it's like, all right, those are the ones available. So we'll do those and we'll work on the West Coast for the spring.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. Um, and I think this is, kind of my last like question about touring. Yeah, with the album still pretty fresh, basically exactly a month from when you start going on the road. Like, how much of that are you gonna do in your set list versus like, some of your older stuff, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it kind of is a balance. Another reason I'm excited about doing the tour in chunks is because I don't really know yet. I don't know how much people will want to hear the new stuff as opposed to the old stuff, and I think it'll just kind of depend on, once we do the first couple shows. I'd say right now it's kind of like an even spread of everything, of like new stuff and a good number of unreleased songs as well, and um, and old songs. So I think like after the first couple shows in Texas, we'll assess and be like, okay, did they hate all of that? Did they like all of that? They really, or did inevitably it'll be like, wow, they didn't see that coming. They really wanted to hear that one, and this one that we thought was going to be awesome, they really didn't like. So, it'll be kind of do a first couple shows and then sort of assess from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll say I really, really enjoyed listening to the album. So,
appreciate it.
So yeah, there are definitely a few on there that I would for sure want to hear live. I'm assuming having only 8 songs on the record, that kind of does help.
Yeah,
where it's not like okay,
totally.
We can only choose half the songs or whatever.
Right. Totally. And then the other thing too is I always put a spot in the show where I'm just like, hey, what do you guys want to hear? And then anybody can be like, play this one. So sometimes that section of the show lasts for half an hour. You never know.
Right. How did that kind of come about? Because most bands stick to a pretty rigid like set list, or a whole tour.
I think that it's for kind of that. Having a moment like that in the show is kind of for that very reason of like, I'm not actually sure what people want to hear, because I don't have a lot of songs that like a lot of people have heard. Really, just like the one "Love More in Your 20s" is a song that a lot of people have heard. But other than that, it's it's like people are coming to see like a niche thing. And with that, there'll be a lot of people that are like, wow, I bought this ticket really hoping he'd play this one song that reminds me of this time, And so I kind of make sure to put that in the show. If somebody came for like one song that's more of a B-side, then they get taken care of, and they don't get bummed out. They're not here to hear that song.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you kind of, and actually, I didn't have this on the question, my like sheet originally, but like you kind of mentioned, your bigger song that I'd say most people would probably know you for. Sorry, I'm pulling up the name just because I'm blanking on it. Love and War in Your 20s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What was that kind of like experience like blowing up like that? Compared to even your second most listened to, at least here on Spotify, it's 70 million listen difference.
Way less than the other one. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's funny. It happened during the pandemic, so I didn't really have any reference point. It wasn't like all of a sudden shows were selling out.
Right.
It was like, oh wow, I got a lot of likes on that post. Huh. Does that mean anything? I don't really know. But I think what's most impactful about that song to me now, and why I do still really love playing it, is just seeing people like so happy whenever it reaches that point in the set list. And you know, I could just see on people, you know, you can always tell like what audience is experiencing. Like some songs, they go like, "Oh, cool, yeah, we like this." And whenever I play that one, it's like I can see them remembering their like road trip with their friends, and that's a cool thing. So I like I'll always play that song, and I'm always excited for it because it's like not mine anymore. It's like, oh, it's you guys. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine, and I mean that was just a weird time for everyone.
Oh, yeah,
especially because
sure.
it was in like 22 or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly. So it was like kind of that weird tail end when everything was starting to get back to normal, but not.
Yeah, and that it's funny that song came out in 2018, but it didn't catch till like 2022 is when it started to take off more so. Yeah.
Funny. Yeah, that's really interesting. That it took a whole 6 years. Not the best of math, but I think that's 6.
I'm down. Great, works great with me. I'm glad to glad to participate in any part of it. Yeah,
for sure. So, kind of moving away from like the touring and then the music and that sort of stuff. Kind of want to get into we always like to have a little segment of like silly / personal questions. So, if you could collaborate with one artist, any artist in history, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Paul McCartney for sure. I'm a huge Beatles nerd, and that would just be a dream. Love all the songs that he's written.
Quick on the draw with that one. I like it.
Yeah.
So right now, would you say, is there any like song or album or artist that you have on repeat just can't get enough of?
Let me think in the past like week or so. One of my buddies is in a band called The Favors that just put out a few songs, and that's a really rad record. My friend Ash is in a band, and the other record that I've been listening to a lot for a while is there's an artist called Slim Dan that I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I definitely recognize the name Slim Dan.
Yeah, he's really great.
Yeah, I'll have to check him out. Also, I'm sorry if you hear any sirens or anything. I live about a block from a hospital. So
you're good. The noise cancellation is working.
Perfect, because I live right next to the road too, and I'm just like hear sirens 24/7.
Oh yeah.
So this is one I always like to ask artists, either personally or musically. What would you say is some of the best advice you've ever been given?
Let's see. Funny enough, it was when I was on The Voice, I got to work with Pharrell Williams on a couple of tunes, and he said something that really has still stuck with me. I said something to the effect of like, yeah, like the show, I don't know, it's kind of not my thing, but I feel like if I can do this, then I can do the gig I want to do. And he was like, no, your life is your gig. Like wherever you are, you're an artist, and like treat your art that way. And I think that's a really helpful, perspective for me. And I still think about it to this day.
Yeah, and actually kind of touch on that. I forgot to ask it earlier when we were talking about it, but like, you know, especially working with Pharrell, who has such a, aside from his own solo career, has such like an influence on modern music as a producer. What was that kind of like, especially because, you know, he has that both like kind of background knowledge as well as, you know, being a solo artist, that sort of thing, and just having such an influence on, you know, modern music, especially at that time, 2014, 15.
Yeah. Any time I've come in contact or been around people that are working at a really high level like him, I'm always struck by how simple they approach their job with a lot of simplicity. Meaning when he's in the studio, he's not thinking, okay, how do we get to, if it has this sort of sound that we could like convince the radio guys to all play it, and he's not living, and nobody that's that much of a genius is living in that. They're just living in a very simple like, what do I want to make today? How do we make something that interests me today? And it's a good guide, because it's like, oh yeah, that is really the heart of creativity. It's just like, don't think too hard about it. Just like log in and create stuff.
Right. Yeah. And like, yeah, I feel like that's something I've heard a lot. Like, just, it's not even necessarily about like what you make. It's just consistency and actually doing it,
Yeah, totally.
That's something I hear a lot. I'm going to school for photography, so that's something I hear a lot,
Yeah.
Just shoot a ton, and that it's how you improve, and no matter what,
Yeah, then you'll accidentally make your best work is usually how that happens.
can confirm on that. So kind of going back to the advice question, following off of that, what advice would you give to a younger, newer musician, kind of just starting out, just looking to like start performing, start writing their own stuff, even just at like a local level?
Yeah, I'd say from a just business perspective, if you want to have a job doing music, I would say write 3 songs a week, play 2 shows a month, and post a video on the internet every day for 2 years. And if you can keep up that pace for 2 years, then you'll really start to see some results. And that's mostly just because that's a really hard thing to do. And so I think that's if you can stick it out for any length of time, you'll start to see some movement, and it'll be within 2 years, and it'll become more clear what those next steps are. I'd say on just on an artist level, that just don't be afraid to make whatever it is you want to make, and usually it's going to feel like you're doing something wrong, or like that you're entering into territory you shouldn't if you're making something great. So if you ever get that feeling of like, oh, should I even do this? It's like, yeah, that's probably when you should. that's probably the direction you should head in. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought of it that way. Because inherently that is pushing you past your comfort zone a little bit, and that's the only way to truly grow as either a person or an artist, or in any regard of life.
Yeah, definitely. Making something new requires that risk.
So you kind of mentioned videos a little bit, and that was something I found really interesting, especially because you do seem to follow that mantra a little bit of posting a lot of social media content and really working the algorithm. Like how do you think compared to just doing the usual promote your album on social media, promote your tour or whatever, of occasional behind the scenes? I mean, you from the stuff I saw, it's not all just music related stuff. It's intertwining with some personal stuff and just other random stuff. So how do you kind of find that balance? And then I guess even before that, how did you start getting into that kind of rhythm of doing short form videos and really leaning into that?
Yeah, I think, well, just out of practicality, it's that's kind of how people find out about music these days.
Yeah.
It's either that or a friend texts them a record. And so it's one of those two. Is usually that's the way people discover music. And so I the main reason is well, it's my job. I care about my songs, want people to hear them, so I need to put in the work there. And I think the other thing too is it's important for me to and something that I'm learning more as the more I do social media, it's oh yeah, I think it's healthiest for me to treat this as art as well. And I think that means taking risks and putting my heart into it and trying to make something worth people's time on the internet instead of just kind of phoning it in. And I think, that's an ongoing challenge because I'm naturally really bad at social media. And so I'm like having to put a lot of work into like gaining those chops. But it's nice to, it's pretty, it's pretty much free to make social media content, and it can really do a lot for whatever business you have. So that's definitely why I do it.
Yeah, I know a lot of us here at UB are in a very similar boat. We have a lot of people that are starting to do a lot of reels because, our main platform is Instagram. Well, Instagram doesn't really like photos anymore. Right. And we're a bunch of photographers. We got to figure out how to play it somehow. And so that's definitely something I've been trying to navigate on my own as like, do I start doing it to play into the algorithm, or do I just post what I want? But yeah,
right.
I from what it seems like you've found that really good balance of both just doing it to, actually boost your music as well as doing what you want.
Yeah, and I think, if you keep connecting with people as the focus, then all the, the algorithm quick tricks and hacks kind of go away, and it just becomes like, oh, like, let me connect with a new person today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, so this wasn't on my thing. This was, off the dome, kind of off what you said earlier about, already having the next album kind of prepared, I guess you would say. Like, looking ahead, especially because what it's gonna sound like, what it's about compared to just having nothing on the docket. Like, what does the next year or two do you think holds for you, especially with this new kind of touring schedule and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think I just kind of keep doing all the things that I've been doing for a while. So, I'll be on tour, a few days out of the month, and then I think we're trying to put out the first single of the new record in September. So just kind of like immediately drop the new record. And I bet it'll come out sometime. The full thing will be out sometime next year. And, but then starting in September, after I get back from these shows, I'm going to start writing the next one. So just kind of like continually making stuff and a lot of that is just, I just really enjoy making things. So it's like, oh yeah, there's nothing else I'd rather do.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess kind of going off that, like, even just stylistically and musically, like, what can, fans kind of expect with the next album, since you kind of know what that's going to be like at this point, especially compared to this last one.
Yeah. I'd say the album, The End of Us, is mostly like pop bangers is kind of the direction we ended up going with it, which is really fun. Yeah. And this record, the new one, is called Mount Tam, and it's my favorite one. It's my favorite record I've ever made by far. I'm really excited about it, and it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a lot more organic, like acoustic instruments, and it's just kind of like the folk, pop, indie, quirky, but still with like a lot of really clear hooks record that I've always wanted to make. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
I'm super excited to hear, especially, with, like you said, the first single probably dropping here fairly soon, like it's pretty quick turnaround, but I do think that's I do think that's all the major questions I got for you today. I guess my final one would be, do you have any thoughts or comments or anything that you'd like to add that you feel we didn't talk about? Or
Oh no, I'm glad to be here and excited that the End of Us record is finally out and people are listening to it. And yeah, can't wait to talk to everybody in real life on tour. Really looking forward to it.
All right. Well, Jordy, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. For anyone watching, go listen to the record, see if there's a show near you. Tour is going to be going through early September for this first leg, and then kind of
November, yeah.
Late October into late November, and see if there's a show near you. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
Amazing.
Again, Jordy,
well, thanks, Ethan.
Thank you so much. And there's Emily, my editor, by the way. She's been doing the recording for this, but yeah.
Amazing. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, of course. Happy to have you.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Of course. Thank you.
Too.
Bye.